All right. Can we talk about the man who had the quietest 52-point game of all fucking time? Like, quietest. Fifth guy in Raptors history to do it. Also, Terrence Ross had a 50-point game for the Raptors, which is like, no one's ever going to talk about that, but Terrence Ross had a 50-point game for the Toronto Raptors. I just want to put that there. But Madison Square Garden, lights on. Win streak, New York's on. Lose streak, Raptors were on. And guess what? Pascal Siakam. And look, I think the Raptors could trade anyone but OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and Scotty Barnes, and it won't be blowing it up. But if you trade either OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam, you're blowing it up. You got three guys that are your core. I love Gary Trent. I don't think he should be moved. But this is a Raptors team that, like, the only thing holding this team back is the fact that they're shooting 30% from three. On a night when they're making their shots, this is a good team. They just need their shooters back. They have injuries. This is a decent team. They shouldn't be blowing up. They got a defensive player of the year candidate. They got basically a unicorn from Cameroon, and they kind of rhymed accidentally. But Pascal Siakam, 52 points. Thoughts, guys?
Unicorn from Cameroon. You kind of did make that rhyme, but I don't know. On paper, that doesn't make too much sense for rhyming. But so
slant rhyme, rap thing.
If Siakam didn't drop 52, this would have been a blowout. But to their credit, they're still, this was OG's like second game back. Gary's out. They still need a bench scorer. I think Gary Trent might be the guy to place on the bench. This is a different Scotty Barnes. I think he's just going through a slump right now. I agree with you. If you trade any of those three players, 100%. My issue, and we talked about this a while ago, was like, if you trade Freddie, well, you better be getting like two playmakers back, because if you trade him, you're really shit in the bed. But I don't see any reason to blow this team up. I would just continue to make these small tweaks. They haven't been healthy in a while. Otto, Precious, those are going to be two big players to get back as well. So I'm not too worried. They worried me at times last year, and they ended up should have been better. But dude, they can't score. Like, Siakam needed to do everything. They scored like 5 points in 8 minutes in the middle chunk of the fourth quarter. Like, they were in.
They don't have 3-point shooting. They don't have three. They brought in shooters, and they've been hurt. Otto Porter Jr.'s out with that hip injury. Juancho's not taking enough attempts. Gary Trent's been in and out of the lineup. Fred VanVleet, his shots aren't falling. It's just a thing. The shots aren't falling for this team. That's a big thing. And also, reports are coming out that Scotty Barnes, baby. New movie coming from Scotty Barnes. But either way, I think the fact that Scotty Barnes, he's having a sophomore slump in the sense that, like, he's basically the same guy from last year, maybe a little bit more inefficient. But what are your thoughts, Luke?
This team's a playoff team. Like, if everything goes right, like, if everything's healthy, like Siakam's missed some time, and OG, Gary Trent's missed some time, Precious is missing time. This team, the teams that they're competing with right now for the play-in tournament, they've got Indiana, who should not finish above them at all. They've got Atlanta, who's going through their own toxic atmosphere. Atlanta's tanking. And you've got Chicago, who, again, along with Atlanta, the most toxic locker rooms in the league right now. And you have this Raptors team with a proven coach, Nick Nurse. He's probably the best coach of any of the guys that I listed. They probably have the best roster.
One of the best autobiographies, Nick Nurse.
Yeah. If they just get healthy, they will make the playoffs. This team is too good to not make the playoffs if everything's healthy. And if they don't make the playoffs, they have to look at some. If they are healthy and they miss the playoffs, they have some serious evaluating to do in the offseason. But you can't trade Pascal, you can't trade OG, and you can't trade Scotty Barnes. Those three are a nice core to build a team around. I like VanVleet, and I don't think that they should trade him. They shouldn't really trade anybody because there's no reason to. But this team's a playoff team. They might not do much in the playoffs because I still think that they're lacking, in compared to what the other top teams in the East are, like Cleveland, Brooklyn right now, Boston, and Milwaukee. And hell, even Philadelphia, I still think is better than them. But, they're still a really good team. They're going to make the playoffs. There's no reason that they should blow it up. There's no reason for them to be scared. Like, it's not like the Washington Wizards that we were talking about earlier. This team is good right now, and we know what helps this team get better. It's just staying healthy.
Juancho's been a really nice low-key steal for him, too.
He's just not shooting enough.
I would get into
get involved more in the offense.
I would get into trading somebody if I was gonna make. But I agree with Luke. I wouldn't trade anybody actually, but if I were to, it would probably be like, I know Chris Boucher's on a nicey. I don't want to trade Boucher, but like that's just kind of. I'm not trading a starter, really. I can't get down to it because I already have my All NBA player in Siakam. I already have my Depoy who's putting up 20 points a night in OG, and I have my All-Star point guard. Then I have my rising young gem in Scotty Barnes. So I wouldn't do anything. Yeah.
I think this is a great team that you shouldn't do anything to it. The only deal that I see, first off, I don't move Gary Trent. He's 23 years old. I don't understand why people are acting like you move Gary Trent. He's the only player, and I know Fred VanVleet's the leader. He's a vocal guy, but if you could tell me I can trade Fred VanVleet for a veteran guy, like if you told me Fred VanVleet for Eric Gordon, and they it was just a straight up.
Fuck yourself.
I don't know. Eric Gordon offers me
straight up. No.
Might be the worst trade of the day.
No.
What would
pick in there, man? At least no.
What about KJ Martin and Eric Gordon?
I will.
No.
I don't like these.
No.
You should watch the Rockets play because this isn't 2012 Eric Gordon, unfortunately.
Yes.
That's true.
This is not a good Eric Gordon right now.
Well, my thought is that if they could go get themselves a defensive guy, and I don't want to I love me some Markelle Fultz. His 3-point shot isn't his 3-point shot starting to show, but he's not the guy that they need. But if they could, obviously, if they can find themselves a Drew Holiday-esque guy, and that's a very rare player. That's why Drew Holiday is Drew fucking Holiday. But a defensive-minded point guard who can hit his 3-point shot, would you do that for Fred VanVleet?
Well, depends on which guy you're talking about, man. Because if
I got disparaged for saying Mike Conley and a pick for Fred VanVleet.
I don't need a pick though.
Mike Conley is
Mike Conley,
Jordan
Clarkson, and Kelly Olynyk.
2013 or 2014, but still a good player. He's not
What's Fred's contract's what, 23 million?
He's about to be a free agent. That's
what I'm saying. So there's some value to a team that would want to move on from a Mike Conley contract. They would attach a pick, or if you know what I mean.
I don't need a pick though.
Yeah, but that would allow them to do
no interest in a pick. Well, that's why I want if I'm gonna do a trade like that, I need a Clarkson or a Sexton.
Clarkson's
and somebody else. So
I mean,
and I'd attach maybe a second.
They shouldn't trade VanVleet. They shouldn't really trade anybody big. Because this team it's not a bad team. It's a good team. It's a playoff team. They don't need to trade anybody.
They're definitely a buyout team for a shooter. If some team,
if the veteran shooter gets bought out, they'll make some moves to get some veteran guys who
this team would kill for you to Watanabe.
Yeah, maybe not it's not ring chasing because I don't think they're going to win a ring, but just a veteran who's looking to go to a playoff contender.
What they thought Otto Porter was going to be.
Yeah,
he still will be.
He's on a hip injury, and I don't trust hip injuries. Hip injuries are one of the worst injuries players.
Yeah, look at Isaiah Thomas, but